Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Wheeler, you can tell from my opening that I'm deeply concerned about the direction of the EPA. As I said in my opening, I had hoped that when Scott Pruitt resigned that EPA would return to its mission of protecting human health and the environment, but I think that this budget shows that protecting public health is not a priority. So I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to try to move quickly and ask you really to answer yes or no. And if you can't answer yes or no, then I'm probably just going to assume it's a no. But let me start. In 2017, Scott Pruitt committed to me in this room to expand the risk evaluation for asbestos to include exposures to legacy asbestos, but that hasn't been done. I think it's unconscionable that we're still importing and using asbestos 40 years after EPA started work on a ban, despite knowing that it's killing 40,000 people a year in this country. So my question is, will you commit to banning ongoing uses of asbestos under TSCA, yes or no?
Yes, we're doing more on asbestos than any administration in the last 25 years.
That. Let me just keep going. Last year, Scott Pruitt committed to me and to the public that he would ban methylene chloride. But now you've moved forward with only a partial ban, leaving commercial uses in place. And this chemical has killed scores of workers and needs to be banned for commercial uses as well, in my opinion. So will you commit to banning commercial uses of methylene chloride?
We're taking comment on a training and certification program for commercial users.
All right, well, so far the answer, I guess, is no. We've also heard a lot of talk from EPA on PFAS chemicals, but we haven't seen action to go along with it. All we have so far on drinking water is an intention to reach a regulatory determination on 2 PFAS chemicals by the end of the year. I don't think that's enough. So question is, will you commit to setting a strict MCL or drinking water standard for all the PFAS impacting drinking water in this country? And will you commit to ensuring that any MCL or drinking water standard that you set actually protects public health? That should be an easy yes.
We have already started the MCL process, but we haven't slowed down. We're still enforcing cleanups around the country. We've taken 8 enforcement actions. We've assisted states in dozens of enforcement actions around the country.
It sounds like that's a no, too. I just don't see how the American people can trust you to protect their health and environment if you don't, commit to what I just asked with regard to the MCL. And to make matters worse, we've seen serious efforts during your tenure to circumvent transparency and hide important risk information from the public. So in my opinion, these efforts have gone beyond what we saw in the Pruitt administration, and are really cause for concern. Now let me ask, on pigment violet 29, you've so far refused to share the scientific studies you used to exonerate a chemical many believe to be dangerous, and I had to send you 2 letters to get those studies released, and when you did release them, you still redacted the main data tables you relied on, which I thought was unacceptable. Will you commit to sharing those data tables with this committee and with the American public? Do you follow what I'm asking you?
The data that was redacted was confidential business information. As you know, under TSCA, we're required to keep CBI confidential.
So the answer is no again.
Under the law, we can't, sir.
Well, that's a question of interpretation. Oftentimes, the Trump administration says they're following the law and they don't, but whatever. On PFAS, EPA recently released a notice of violation against Chemours, I guess that's DuPont, one of the main PFAS manufacturers, for issues at 2 PFAS plants. This notice should be an important tool for the communities around these plants, but the notice and report is so heavily redacted, I think, again, it's ridiculous. My staff was able to find much of the redacted information already available to the public, but even a generic chemical identity, which exists just to inform the public while protecting CBI, was redacted. And this, again, this over-redaction, I know you said it with regard to the previous question, is, you think you're required to do it, but I think it's way beyond what the law requires, and I think it's the over-redaction really is I think offensive to the communities that are dealing with this PFAS pollution. So let me ask you on that, on this Chemours or DuPont, will you commit to sharing an unredacted version of the Chemours Notice of Violation report with this committee and the American public?
Again, we have to safeguard confidential business information as required under our statutes, but we have directed Chemours to test hundreds of water supplies within the areas around the 2 facilities, and they are doing that, and we're using our enforcement tools to make sure that it's getting done.
Well, I think, again, the answer is no, and I disagree with what you think needs to be redacted. But I think you're just not doing enough to protect public health and the environment, and I appreciate your willingness to come here today, but we need more from you in terms of transparency, responsiveness, and action to address serious threats to our health. That's just my opinion, and I want you to know that. I appreciate your coming, but we're not getting a lot of this information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back.